Sometimes the most powerful medicine is the kind that calls us back, not just to health, but to the wisdom our ancestors carried and the magic we've forgotten how to trust. My guest today says that true healing happens in the spaces where dimensions meet, where ancient wisdom and modern challenges collide, and where the soul remembers its own power. My guest today says that we're living through a great paradigm shift, one where the secrets of vibrational medicine, flower essences, and the divine feminine are rising to the surface, ready to transform how we heal, manifest, and live. Natalie is a vibrational medicine practitioner, certified flower essence alchemist, root cause protocol consultant, and master herbalist apprentice. She's the founder of Awakening Magick, host of the Disrupt Now podcast, and co-creator of the Forge and Flow Sanctum, a sanctuary for reclaiming vitality and honoring ancient wisdom in a modern world. I'm Scott Allen, and you're listening to the Enlightened Life podcast, where we explore the soul's journey, the mysteries of healing, and the moments that transform us. Let's get started. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Scott. So good to be here.
Thank you so much for joining me, and I'm genuinely excited to dive into your journey and the magic you bring to the world. Welcome. You know, your work weaves together vibrational medicine, flower essences, and ancient wisdom. And for those who are listening who are new to this world, how do you define vibrational medicine, and what first draw you to this path?
Well, there's a lot of ways, I think we all have our unique lenses when it comes to this vibrational medicine aspect. But the way that I see into that and peer into that, it's taking into account there's medicine for every layer of who we are multidimensionally. So, for example, the astral layer of our bodies, the energetic, subtle body, light body that we carries the emotions. And there's a way to provide medicine and remedies that can assist to get emotions unstuck that are within that layer. Because when things get stuck, when the energy is not flowing, when we have these points within us that are vibrationally disconnecting us from our full multidimensional experience, those layers need to, be worked through or massaged through, smoothed over, let go, to be able to allow us to fully connect on all layers and all levels. So that's really the way that I peer into this, is it's providing medicine for all the layers and all the levels of who we are, instead of just looking at, I have to heal my body. There's a light body to that too. And this is very much connected to, the earth mirrors, we are the earth and the earth is us. And so the earth also has a light body. And so we're vibrationally connected to all things, and therefore, looking at this really holistic picture just brings this all together into a harmonious way of seeking healing that is more profound than looking at this aspect or this aspect as disconnected parts.
So when you speak about awakening magic in daily life, what does magic mean to you, beyond the cliches, and how do you help people access it?
It's beyond the cliches for sure. That's actually why I left a K on it, because when you look into the ancient roots of and etymology of the word, you get into magi and into, magic that existed very harmoniously with humans and this earth and all beings and all things. So what I'm really tapping into about magic overall, it's looking at the divine spirit within all things, the divine spirit within humanity, within each human. And that really is connecting into this, if we could say, the creator spark, the God spark, the divine wisdom that we hold as a unique perspective of living crystals that we are. And so it's about the divine magic that exists within all things and connecting into the spirit of that. And again, this is also looking at this vibrational essence that we don't see.
Yeah.
Many can't see. There we can photograph it. You can see, auric fields, light bodies, etc., and we can see that vibrational. You can feel that energy often if we're sensitive to that. But that is the magic I'm talking about. Truly if we were to define it in a more modern way, it's like the most advanced quote unquote technology that we could ever imagine
Do
of
you think
how
oh,
you
sorry.
bring light into matter. I mean, that is magic to me.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. No, well, and I wanna know just for people because I can hear people asking, is this considered Wiccan or not?
No.
You're not Wiccan. So this is a totally different thing besides that.
Yeah.
How you're, like,
Yeah.
sitting out in the woods here, and it makes us wonder, where you are.
Yes, I mean, you know, yeah, I feel like, a lot of these different, kind of religious viewpoints have gotten from my seeing, that's where the tweaks and the angles and the dogma has gotten layered into some of
Mhm.
these elements where I'm really wanting to peer back into the most pure and organic form without those structures, without those layers of almost like an intrusion on, saying it is this way when really it's always in motion and always changing and things are always fluctuating and vibrating. So,
Sure.
yeah, yeah.
So I want to talk about flower essences for just a moment. We had a guest on earlier in the year who that's her thing. She's really big into flower essences.
Hmm.
And I know that that's a big part of what you do. Can you share a story with us where maybe flower essences created a shift for you or maybe even for a client?
But yeah, for sure. Um, it's interesting, in my master herbalism studies, and this all came from a very mysterious illness that hit me in my late 30s. And it kind of thrust me into seeing the world from a very different lens and how I was going to heal my own body, my own self, my own everythingness. And when in the master herbalism studies, I was obviously you peer into what herbs and the plant wisdom, the sacred plant wisdom that is available to us. But what I was really connecting with was the spirit, the energy of the plants, of the flowers. So I began really sitting with these beings, and they would communicate with me what they're called without me even having to look it up. Without it was just, and then later I would dive into research and realize, oh my God, it was right. This is beautiful. What a beautiful connection to be able to speak to these beings, with um, just silence. And it was then that I realized, this wisdom is far more than I think many of us can't even fathom the magnitude of the communication that we can have with these sacred plants and trees and, everything. But so before I even started making became my own flower essence alchemist, I was really searching for, high vibrational creators. And I had the founder of Lotus Way, who is it's a big, she does flower essences as well. And I really loved her, and I loved her, the way, just approaching it from a very high quality, transparent, super beautiful creation, and her connection as well by just listening. So she really, felt like a soul sister and I was like, this is just magnificent. And these were layers of myself, emotions that had been, just stuck points within my field. And I had gotten her sacred awareness essence. And I started taking that years ago. And within that, first 6 months, it just brought me to my knees in terms of, it was like I was able to drop in to true, what that word sacredness means, where, you're free from intrusions. You're in this haven within your own field. And, I would just cry when I would tap into the flowers that are in there. Just, they were pouring their wisdom into my being on that astral layer, very subtly, very softly, but always working there in the background. And then when I began to make my own essences, the profound shift that I've had in working with mugwort, for example, as a flower
Mhm.
essence, which is known, I mean, that plant took me on an incredible dreamscape and astral travels at night type of profound wisdom that would come during the dream time. And so these experiences were just layers on top of my already intuitive knowing of this wisdom is profound. And these plants and these flowers have so much to provide to us. And so it really changed the way my healing journey, the trajectory of that journey, I should say. Because again, these are subtle, so soft. It's like they're whispering into your light body, and when it hits you, it's like one day you wake up and you're like, wow, I don't even have that emotion. Like that, that weird emotion that I just feel like I couldn't get rid of is gone.
Wow.
So it's very light, it's not some like you get, you fall over and it's just
Not a
the
narcotic. It's not
yeah,
psychedelic or something.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Listening. Yes, we're not advocating for that. But there is it's a subtleness.
It
And
is.
each flower does something different.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So it's literally mirroring humans, that connotation that, everyone is special, and then there's people that were like, well, no, you're not special. No one's special. No, actually, every single human has a wisdom and a magic that they bring to this world, whether they see it or not. That is exactly what happens in the flower world, for example, since we're on the flower essence topic. And so each flower has a perspective and a way of seeing and bringing their own wisdom into the world, just like humans.
Yeah. I like to always ask this question, and I get asked a similar question every time if I go on someone else's podcast. But some skeptics will say that, vibrational medicine isn't real medicine. So how do you respond to them when they question legitimacy for you to say the legitimacy of your work?
Well, we're peering into a time where, again, I think that one of the most dangerous things that has happened to this world is dogma. And to think that this physicality is all that we see is actually, you're not seeing the entire picture. So I don't think that we can ever convince someone who's convinced that they can't see. They can't see and they won't see. So, to be honest, I don't even have those conversations because that to me doesn't even matter. But those who feel it, those who know. And they may not realize the profundity of it all, but it's also, it's interesting. Like, I'm in my studies and all of the thousands of hours of research at this point, it's just the one thing that I think we are seeing mirrored is that this quantum science conversation is catching up with what shamans and healers and the witches and the blah, blah, blah of all the world have always known. That there is an entire reality, which is a technology, which is the magic, which is, the fundamental elements of our actual multi-dimensional experience. And, it's interesting because it's like, I always think about this in terms of giving visuals. Like if anyone's seen Doctor Strange, okay, that movie, I love that movie for many reasons. But, he comes into that entire experience before he sees the quantum world, if we will, and comes from this dogmatic, neurosurgeon viewpoint. And he's blown away when he realizes what he knew was really nothing. And so I think that's also the key is knowing the profound multidimensional experience that we are actually living in. Like no one has seen that no one has seen the breadth of what that really is. And if we think we know, that's when we're getting into dogma ourselves. So it's like completely letting go of the knowing and realizing that with every step that we take, we can tap into a much deeper and even more expansive reality that are actually living in every day.
Right. Yeah. And it's not exactly the same, but I always like to say to people, you are in Tennessee, I'm in Massachusetts. My
Hmm.
computer's not connected to anything. You're outside.
Exactly.
Somehow, through wherever it is, we are able to communicate, talk, record, and carry on a conversation. These are things people dreamed about 50 years ago that, there's no way it will ever be a reality, right? Or we had ideas of what it might look like affixed to the wall with a big screen and
You're
it's
right.
we are doing things that are really kind of woo-woo. We just understand that when we turn this on,
It
you can
works.
do it. And we don't know why it works. I don't know why it works. I'm sure somebody does, but I don't understand why it works or how it works or where it is in the atmosphere. I feel like it's kind of the same thing. We just have to go with, it's a little bit of blind faith, but know that it does what it's supposed to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the other real truth here is that again, when we get into like you can actually talk about this in a scientific quote unquote way and feeling that and it's also seen by the changes that happen when taking any kind of vibrational remedy. One of our animals, part of my work is also working with animals and the same ways pretty much. There's some nuances, but one of our dogs, something that's happening in this world is a lot of animals are getting sicker and sicker earlier and earlier and earlier in their lives for many reasons. But one of our boo-boos, as we say, he's been taking homeopathy 4 times a day for over a year to help with a tumor in his liver. And that little baby is running around, just this morning, running around our house, playful as can be, and that animal is being fully supported by the quote unquote magic of the homeopathy. And so, it's like we have to experience it ourselves
That's right.
and be open to the possibility first because, you know, as you well know, there's many people that don't want to be healed or to change or to and those are those when you're meeting it with that kind of friction,
Right.
then these kinds of things can't work because it is literally like a brick wall being layered around. Yeah.
Percent.
Yeah.
Can we talk a little bit about the Forge and Flow Sanctum? You and your husband created it as a healing space. So, what is this and what inspired it?
Yes. Okay. So this has been a progress, a work in progress for a long time. In fact, we literally just landed on our land that we purchased over 2 years ago to guardian, I should say, to steward. I don't like to use the word purchase or we don't own this land. And we finally built our home. That took a year and a half. It was like a roller coaster ride of lots of vibrational remedies were needed, let's just say.
Make it happen.
we so Mark, my husband, he is a Tai Chi and Qigong teacher. And we've really began to take all of the certifications, all of the teachings, all the things that we've been cultivating for years now, coming out of New York City, coming into, now we're in a very rural, middle of nowhere place. And our biggest vision is that we want to open this space as a healing sanctum, as a place where people can come to experience their own dimensionality within our regenerative forest. We're calling it One Song Grove. But in this sanctum, Tai Chi and Qigong are a big part of the practices that will be taught. And of course, all of my work, which at the end of the day is really about helping animals and their humans to increase their vital life force. Because when we have vitality coursing through our entire being, we are so much more present and able to do the things that we're here to do, whatever that might be. So that is our main focus is helping people to really have this vital life force flowing through them so that things can awaken and change and connection can just clarity, it's a gateway to crystal clear clarity and visions and being able to really connect into everyday living and just being able to handle the aspects of chronic stress that we're all facing in this world. Yeah.
Of course.
We could go on and on about that kind of thing.
We could. We could, we could for sure.
Environmental stressors,
Yep.
so yeah.
There's a lot of talk too about the rise of divine feminine and masculine. And what are these energies? And maybe you could just speak a little bit about how they show up in your journey and our journeys.
Yeah, sure. It's been a very intriguing I'll just share an experience that I had when I was little because this to me has been a profound. I never quite understood the magnitude of what it was teaching me at that time, obviously, until such time it literally hit me like I call it like a pound bag of fairy dust. But I used to have these visions of this female with a great white lion, like on a stairway to a golden city. And this dream was so constant. I mean, it was every night during my teens. And I know it was just like repeating, 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 so I would remember. And I mean, you just don't forget things like that when it's repeating, repeating, repeating. So, I've written about it, I wrote poetry about it, et cetera, et cetera. This archetype of this female was to me, the cosmic mother and that energy of the divine feminine. Obviously, we see a world before us today where the divine feminine and then the correlation to then said female as a representative, even though, again, that's kind of a misnomer in a way because you and I sitting here have those energies flowing through us, both the masculine and the feminine. And those, when they're in harmony, that is when we're embracing both our intuitive, compassionate essences and the action taker, for example. So that's the energies that we're really playing with here are these aspects of our true self, which is a harmonized and balanced whole being. And so that for me, that was a constant reminder that this essence of mother, this essence of feminine, and then thereby the female needs to be anchored back into this world. Because it's through that is how we harmonize what we know is a very imbalanced world. I mean, we could talk about, the balance just between the yin and yang from a, ancient Chinese perspective. I mean, there's a lot of words and a lot of ways and a lot of cultures see it very differently. But to me, it's some of us have these experiences to where we know, there's an energy that's anchoring through me. And so that is how I came to know this cosmic mother, as I say, or this divine feminine energy in a really powerful way and anchoring. And the colors that were associated were always this blue indigo, aqua, beautiful mixture of colors that I could see and I could feel in my field. And it's interesting when you look at ancient texts, for example, the ancient texts of the Essenes, they talked of the azure breath of the mother. So, I mean, it's peppered throughout ancient texts. It's peppered throughout all of our living story. And it's that piecing that all together to see this bigger perspective of when that energy in totality gets anchored into this world, we're going to find more balance, thereby even just a better balance and equity just between genders on that level. And then we can just think about what happens when we're vibrationally allowing both of those energies to intertwine within us. We're not living too much in the logic. We're not living too much in the flow. There's a harmonized balance. That's something Forge and Flow is fundamentally based on that foundation as well.
Do you see any signs that we're entering a new era of consciousness?
Definitely. Yeah. 2020, it's been happening for a very long time. This is not new. However, I feel that, the 2000s and this moving into this 2020, what we saw was a massive, it was like a energetic bomb, essentially, that was dropped to begin to, the light body of the earth is changing so quickly, and thereby so are humans and actually every living being in this entire construct. So, yes. And, we can see that just by what's happening. We can see it mirrored in what's being created. I just read, for example, some time ago, there's a farm in the US the size of Los Angeles, which, I mean, that is a massive, and it's a multi-generational farm. They are moving to regenerative farming practices, which means they are going to totally recultivate that entire size of LA land into healthy soil, and they will not be using any kinds of anything on the land that is bad for
Chemicals and toxins.
all those things that so many farmers have taken, because they needed to get more
Right.
more out of their crops,
That's
etc.
huge.
So it's huge. So when you and I that's another layer that I really love to dive into is this way of like seeing the multidimensional way that things are playing out. even looking at crop circles, some of them are very high vibration and really call to me. And so
Can
it's
you talk about
seeing,
that for a minute? Because that's one of those things. You know what I mean? It's funny.
yeah,
Somebody was just talking to me about them recently. What are crop circles in your.
yeah. Yes. Well, so I actually literally just put out a video a couple weeks ago about this. There's a lot of humans that have come forward and said, we create these, and they've been created by humans, even for marketing purposes and stupid things of this nature. Many years ago, they started becoming a map. Not all of them. Some of them very much have this vibration that me personally I'm called into, and they speak volumes. And I just tap into that energy, especially, when I was there in that region in Avebury Henge, which is where in Wiltshire in England, that's where they're 80% of them in this world. So in that region, my husband and I were talking at some point when I came back, and I was like, that area is they have 80% of the world's chalk streams, which are these crystal clear, beautiful water. Oh my God, the water is crystal clear, gorgeous. And the mother energy is very strong in those lands for many reasons. But they have all this, the sacred wells. The Chalice well is there, the red spring, the white spring. So water. So when you look at water and you look at the land itself, we can mark. My husband, he creates music. And so he's like, man, this really looks like cymatics, doesn't it? I was like, exactly. So it's like it's a vibrational way of speaking. And from my perspective, I see this as whether it's just they're created in a divine magical way, or created through a human in a divine magical way, because again, we're magic. And anytime we get divine inspiration to draw or to write or to do anything, that is a vibration or an energy that's moving through us. And we're telling that story or sharing that message, or, psychically, this is exactly what mediumship is, isn't it? It's receiving information and sharing it.
Sure.
Yeah. So yeah, that's where I see, and what I see crop circles as. These are messages, and they're codes that are being encoded into the lands themselves. Because when you really look at many of the designs, they're beautifully complex.
Hmm.
They're in a location that's not easy to get to, but then you have layered on top of that, the profound, when you really break down what that symbology means, these profound insights that can be garnered from tapping into that wisdom. So just another layer of multidimensional magic in my eyes, I would say.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know we're getting near the end, but if you could change one thing about how our culture approaches healing, what might that be?
Hmm, that's a really great question, because there's so many ways to answer it.
Yeah.
But I think that it's what I would love to see happen in this world, in and around healing, is, right now it still feels like it's this ancient, I would even say primordial wisdom, that is met with this brick wall in allopathic training, with the modern conventional way of seeing medicine. And they collide. It's like oil and water constantly, and one is right and the other is wrong. One is right and the other is wrong. When in reality, what I would really love to see is these worlds need to meld again. This entire construct of duality needs to break down, to see that in trauma care, there's powerful wisdom, surgeons that do unbelievable things. And in ancient primordial practices, there's profound wisdom that needs to meet that.
Hmm.
And then, of course, tapping into the reality that what we see is just a tiny fragment of the reality of what's really happening. So when we look at healing on all those layers and all those levels, now, and then melding these things, that is what I see in dreams and in meditation constantly, that it will happen. It will be. I am unsure if it's in, your my lifetime, but it will happen. And that would change everything.
Do you have a final story maybe that you want to share, or an insight or message before we
I think I'll just tap into the simple way of just remembering that we are magic. We are met with so many difficulties and challenges to live in this world, the systems that don't want to fall, that systems that are clutching and holding on so tightly. And we're having to really balance between almost two realities. One is a very harmonic, beautiful. The other is a very separated and destructive patterning. And if we can come back to this reality every single day, the reality is that actually magic is real, because we are living proof that that's the truth. Just by doing what we're doing right now, just by existing. I think that is a very simple approach that has gotten me through some really difficult times.
Well, I want to thank you, Natalie, for your wisdom and for sharing your story with us. And for everyone listening, you can find Natalie's work at awakeningmagick.com. And again, that's Magick. And also at forgeandflow.org and through the Disrupt Now podcast. And I'll have all the links in the show notes below. If this conversation inspired you, please share the episode, leave a review, and join us at mediumscottallen.com for more episodes, to book a reading, or to learn about upcoming live events. Again, I'm Scott Allen. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us today and joining us on the Enlightened Life podcast. Keep seeking, keep healing, and remember that the magic you seek is already within you. We'll see you next time.